That's not good. All right. So let's talk about the final. Let me look at some days. For this class, and then I'll post the placeholder again. Today is the 1st. So we can do the final presentations on Thursday the 8th, if you're ready for it and be done. How does that sound? Or do you want the extra day? Sounds fabulous? Okay. Well, if you put it like that, then what can I do but oblige? So let's plan on December 8th for the finals, and I'll post a note. And it's a Thursday. The one question is if we have enough time for everyone to present. And yes, Geneva?
Do we have the option of presenting on finals week? If not everybody could present on the 8th?
Due to the amount of students, or due to the fact that you're not that some students are not ready? Which I'm asking you.
Just if there's not enough time on
Right.
the 8th for everybody to present.
Okay. I think that makes sense. So let's plan to try to get through all the presentations on the 8th, and if that doesn't work, then the students who didn't get a chance to present will have to come in on Tuesday the 13th and present, and that's going to be hopefully not the case because there is a different schedule on that day, and I have to reserve the room. And I think we'll just try to be under a 5-minute timeline for presenting, and then be done on Thursday. All right. So that's the plan. All right. So for today, we have, in this case, only 2 more sessions before the presentations. There are 2 topics I would like us to cover in those 2 days. The first topic is the HTML5 layout. And then as we have time, I definitely would like us to at least take a look at the media queries which allow you to make responsive layouts. All right. So these are the 2 skills I would like you to have before the end of the class. The responsive will not be included in your project. You don't have to make it responsive unless you want to, but I would like you, as you go into Web 120, to know what responsive is, because it will really help out. And I think whoever teaches 120 would have an expectation that you know about responsive design. So we'll look at an example and see how essentially you use these things called media queries, and then it's like conditional statements, and then you split up the screen size with the media queries, and then you display different CSS for the different screen sizes. That's what responsive is really about. Then also scaling your images. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover. But let's start with the HTML5 layout. If I can especially get online here, this would be really helpful. Okay. Do you have any questions on what's going on then, or comments? You think you'll be okay for the 8th? For the final? Okay, awesome.
I don't know if I'll be ready on the 8th.
You will not be? Okay. Then we'll make arrangements for you for the following week, I guess, right?
If I don't do a presentation, I'll get 0 for that part.
Mm-hmm. There is no point for you to not do a presentation. You should be able to present what you have, even if it's not finished, right? Let's talk about it. I think there is no reason for you to have nothing. You should have something, and I can help you get something.
What do you want to talk about it after class? Or?
Can you, right, probably after class, or if we have lab time, I'll come and talk to you. But remind me, as you can see, I always have a lot of things going on. So just say, Stani, can you come talk to me? Okay, let's talk about the HTML5 layout. How many of you took a look at the HTML5 layout already? So you should have some idea. All right, so I think that today I'll just start with the...
You mean in the book?
In the book, yes, in the book, or in the, I also provided some tutorials. But let's talk about it, and then I have this example we're going to do together with a sushi restaurant. And if we have time, we start on responsive today. If not, we'll talk about responsive on Tuesday. So just to refresh your memory, the way that layout was done before HTML5, we used divs because divs are containers, and we designated an ID or a class for the div so that we know which div corresponds to which part of the layout element. So you can have a div with the ID of the page, a header, nav, sidebar, content, and footer. So this is a very standard layout, right? Actually, there is one other topic I would like us to talk about if we have time. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'd like to introduce you to the grid layout concept as well. So we'll try to get through those. There's a lot to cover. As you can see, this is a pretty full class. All right. And then inside the content, you might have multiple related articles. And again, you'd designate it as a div, and then you can give it a class or ID to make clear which one it is. And so now with HTML5, we can just use the element header instead of a div with the ID of header. A div instead of a nav div, we can have a nav element. There is an article element on a side, and then a header and a footer. So that's pretty much the idea, right? And so these elements generally will be block elements, meaning they're going to take up the entire line they're on. They're not in line. Is everyone crystal clear on what a block level element is versus inline? Now is the time to clarify this, if not.
I would like to clarify. So the aside is still considered block, even though it's aside the body.
Yeah, you have to make it do this. So it's going to be an aside, okay. Right? You still have to apply the CSS.
Yeah.
These elements don't magically give you styling properties. They're just for semantics. Yeah, so that's a good question. Well, in this case, I think that's the only slide I wanted to show you, and then I would like us to do the example together. Let me just see if there is anything else I would like to show. That's what we're going for. So we're going to this nice little design, and we're going to hand code it. And to do so, you need to grab the following folder. So there is a folder in week 9 and 10, and it has images in it. So let's download. What I did is I combined weeks 9 and 10. Let's see, how did I do it in Canvas? Since we overlapped, let's see what I did here. I believe both week 9 and 10 lead to the same. Let's see. Yes, so you can look at week 9 or 10 is the same content. They overlap. And then please download the images from here. And then place them in a folder for your HTML5 layout. Okay, I'll show you. The first thing you need to do is to log into Google Drive. If you are logged into your Google Drive and then add the folder, you should be able to right-click and download. Okay. So after you download it, take a look at the images that we'll be working with. You can see that the logo, even though it's words, is actually an image, right? And it's fairly common for logos to be created as a GIF rather than a JPEG because you don't want a lot of color to a logo. For example, with a logo, you want to be able to print it to a T-shirt and scale it up and down. So it's not a great practice to have some logos have a lot of colors to them and a lot of, capture a lot of imagery, but that's not necessarily a best practice. All right, and is everyone ready with downloading the image? Almost? Okay. So when you're ready, you can start your brackets in your project. Yeah.
My individual folder from Drive downloading or email.
I'm afraid there is a problem with the connection. I think that's probably the issue. Let's take a look. I'm not able to download them on my laptop. I was trying to do it, so let's try it. Oh, you don't need to open this. Is this here? No? You guys really like Edge.
I thought that anyone would have flash drive.
Yeah.
I have a flash drive. Yeah, we can do that if it comes to it. Do you have a new boss trying this in Chrome?
No, just automatically
It's
go,
not
no, it just automatically goes to Edge, but my phone.
try Chrome. And if not, Anna, could you put them on flash drive? Anyone else have any issues? I can put images on my flash drive. Anyone else? You good? Someone last time didn't have Chrome, so that's another plus for you. You never know. But those of you who are already downloading the images, please start a new file and save it as HTML5 layout.html. And make sure to save it relative to the images folder, right? All right. Did it work, Geneva? Not yet. It worked with Chrome? Okay. No comment. All right. Okay, let's do this then. So we're going to start with the HTML structure, and then we're going to apply the styles as before. It's somewhat of a lengthy project, but I think you appreciate having something more complete. So first, we're going to start with doc type, HTML as usual. HTML. There is another language, XML, that's also markup language where you can give tags their own names. So I think the reason that brackets keeps on being helpful is it thinks that maybe I'm creating tags, custom tags, but that's not what we want here. So, all right, and then we have the head with the title, HTML5 layout. If it's easier for you, I have also posted a link to the source code so you can look at it from your machine instead of looking at me. In fact, I'm curious to hear. Generally, it seems like it's better for you guys if I'm typing too, because you actually see me real time, and even the mistakes I make probably help. But do you feel like that's better, or do you rather just have the code ready and then just copy it? I would like some feedback.
I was just kind of looking at it. I kind of like doing this.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming looking at it all at once.
Okay. So both.
To have step by step and after that have on.
Okay. I think that sounds well. I'll keep on doing that. All right. So HTML5 layout. And then we're going to start with the body. And we'll start with a div with a class of wrapper. So when you start making these more complex layouts with a lot of different elements in them and many different divs or HTML5 elements, it's a good idea to start making a comment close the wrapper, because it's sometimes overwhelming and you don't know what refers to what. So it's easier to keep track by documenting and saying this is where the wrapper div ends, for example. And then header. So this is our first use of the HTML5 element. In fact, I think what needs to happen is, this is a really good book, I think, and most students seem to like it. The author needs to update the book to include HTML5 now always instead of using the divs. The reason I think, historically speaking, the book is the way it is because HTML5 became the web standard after the book was released. So now I think the author needs to go back and make it so that it uses HTML5 from the beginning. Okay. So we have an H1. So this is a Yoko's restaurant. Rocket Kitchen. And then another HTML5 element is the nav. And inside the nav we have a URL to create our navigation. It will be mock navigation, so we'll just put the hashtag here, the £. We won't develop all the additional pages, that will be too much right now. So that's home. And at this point, you should be okay to copy and paste the list items. I don't think you need to type it from scratch anymore. And we're going to have 5 total. We're just going to edit them. All right, so the first is the home. The second one, okay, note that if you copied and pasted, only the home has the current class, so make sure to delete those classes here for all the other items. All right, so we have a home. The next one will be classes, catering, about, and contact. So this is our navigation. The other point to make as you develop more complex pages, it's very important and helpful for you to indent the tags. So it helps you, again, keep track of what's happening where. And I'm trying, as you can see here, to indent levels in, right? All right, so the navigation is in the header. And then we have a heading. So that's a conventional way of a heading and navigation in the header. And then we're going to have a section with a class of courses. So a section can contain articles and multiple articles. Yes, Christina.
Does the section align really with header or with the div?
But that's the
As
side.
far as the alignment,
Yeah, just in terms of where it belongs as we're learning the hierarchy of HTML5. Is section another word like header?
yes, it aligns with HTML5. I think the question is, it's an HTML5, it is. It's an HTML5 element, if that's the question. Yes,
Similar to header.
exactly. Okay, so in the section, as I mentioned, you can have one or multiple articles. Actually, sorry, let's add a link first here in the section, href introduction.html. And that's another thing to point out. You're designing your site here, and you're in a way planning out the pages you're going to have to add later, right? Okay, so take out the closing anchor tag and put it outside of the article. And then we have inside the article, we're going to add the figure, which is also an HTML5 tag. And it's used, as you recall, to contain visual aids, including images. So in this case, we're going to have an image in here. And then the source now is going to point to the folder that you downloaded. And let's grab the bokchoy.jpg. And inside the figure, we also can have a fig caption, which is going to show us the caption for the figure, for the image, bok choy. After the figure is still inside the article, and again, it's helpful to keep the indentation to see where you are, we're going to add the age group, which is also an HTML5 tag. And the age group is used to combine multiple age elements. So in this case, we can have age 2, Japanese vegetarian, and age 3, 5-course meal in London. And a paragraph. 5-week intro to traditional Japanese vegetarian meals, rice and noodle style. And again, last time it came up, these elements that are inside the article, they're nested, and they're also going to be considered, in terms of the document object model, they're going to be considered the children of the article, right? So you can imagine taking the page and then flipping it sideways, and then if you did so, then the hierarchy would fall out of it, right? Not exactly, but you can see the idea. So it's going to be article, parent, and then figure, age group, and paragraph children, and then image and fig caption children of the figure. So if it's inside another tag, it's considered child in terms of the DOM. And where this becomes especially important is when we start learning JavaScript, because you get to manipulate all the elements on the HTML page with JavaScript following the DOM, what we call traversing the DOM. I think the student who is in the JavaScript class is not here, but is anyone else taking JavaScript this winter? Okay, all right. So I think you're in my class actually, right? Yeah. So that's why it's important to know about these. Okay, and so that's the first link in the section, and then we have one more. And I think if you, for the sake of time, let's just copy, there will be a second link. So we're going to copy all this. So copy everything from the anchor opening to the anchor closing. And then you want to paste it inside the, still inside the section. And then we're going to make changes. Does make sense? All right. So the second set, we're just going to make changes to the content, but the structure is exactly the same. And that's another point to mention, is that when we work with web development and design, we want to have a separation of concerns. We want to separate the structure from the content, the style from the structure, and so on. So we want to separate our layers. And you can see here the structure is the same, so we get to reuse it, and we can just change now the content. So the next page link is going to go to the sources.html. And then we have an article, we have a figure, and we have a different image here. So instead of bok choy, teriyaki.jpg. The fig caption will be teriyaki sauce. Sauces masterclass, one-day workshop. And then the paragraph changes to an intensive one-day course, how to make delicious sauces. For Japanese cooking. And then you close your section. And clicking on the tag, as you know, it's going to tell you the opening and closing, how they match. So this seems to be in order there. And so this is going to be our main section of content. And then next we're going to add an aside, and that's another HTML5 element. Right. The aside is going to have a section of its own with a class of popular recipes.
Can it be 2 words?
No, it has to have a dash. Thank you. There you go. If it actually it can be 2 words, but what it would mean something else.
Yeah.
If it's 2 words, it would mean it's 2 classes. In this case, we want it to be 1 class, so thank you. We need to put a dash. All right, and then inside the section, we're going to have an H2 of popular recipes. We want 4 anchor tags, so maybe we can just copy them first and then add the content. So there'll be 4 links here inside the section. Yakitori, Sukune, you can add your own if you prefer. Okay, so we have a section for the recipes and a section for contact details. As we're doing this, do you see the meaning of the section? How do you use it? It combines related items, but it's a subset of the site or the article. So you can have several different sections in the article, several different topics, if you will, and it's the same with the site. So we have a section for the class contact details. Rocco's Kitchen. We're just going to use breaks to break up the paragraph, or we could use multiple paragraphs, but let's do it like this. All right, we're almost done with the structure. So the last thing we need to add is our footer. I'll let you finish with the side. So out of the side, but still inside the wrapper div, we're going to add the footer. So this is the last HTML5 element here that we're using. And we're going to say add copy 2016 Yoko's Kitchen. And this will give us the copy sign. And when you learn PHP or JavaScript, what you can do is you can use a PHP function datetime, and you can dynamically display the date and the year as part of the footer. So that's just something that you do once you know how to do it. Instead of hard coding it, you just call a function to get it from the system and display dynamically. Okay. For now, we'll just say 2016. Okay, so this should be our structure for the page. So as always, let's preview. Let's see if my preview works. This would be nice. Let's preview without the styles, and then we'll dive into the styles and continue. Wow. Maybe, just maybe. It looks different than before, but let's see. No, maybe not. No. In this case, I'll just do it the other way. Well, yeah, I can. I can't close everything because I'll just do it from the folder and from the file. So let me just find the file. I just have too many things here. What did we name this HTML5 layout? Here we go. You know, this computer really wants me to use Edge.
Yeah, they all do.
They all do. All right, so here's where we are right now. And what kind of flow are we observing here, by the way? This is the normal flow, as we discussed, and just everything is getting displayed in the sequence that we coded it on the page. So that's what we can expect to see right now. I think we're where we expect to be, and then our next task will be to add the CSS. Would you like to take a break now and then dive in the CSS? I think we should, because we have 10 minutes left. So take a break, come back at 2, please, and then we'll complete the assignment, the web exercise. So let's see.
Oh,
Remember that building?
Hmm?
Remember that building?
yeah.
I lived one building over for years.
Is the one with the corner?
No. Other things. The office building. That's your space. The entire time that I lived there, there was a sign on the store that said that we're going to be a bakery for 4 years. That's the sign. 2 years after I moved away, there's a coffee shop. The roasted coffee. The entire that time. I was like, maybe next time I'll walk back. No.
Okay, so final presentations on the 8th. think it's been 10 minutes. One more minute. What are you guys taking next quarter then? Who's taking what?
Thanks, I registered, but I remember which ones I signed up for. But
You're taking Java? 150 is the JavaScript. 115 is the Java. You're taking JavaScript?
Should have my book already covered, and my daughter is so excited. Can I watch you do your homework? Oh, that's sweet.
Let's do it. How about you then?
I had to take the night version
Okay.
in the continuation class.
What? 120.
I'm taking 120 too.
Chris, I didn't
Oh, no, the only one that I could read was the Java 5 to 7. We're just kind of crappy. My one fun time. The young ladies. Too much it's a month from 7 to 9, so I can't make it computer. Too much. I'm doing towards the water from the city.
All right, so let's do the CSS part of this class. All right, so let's jump to the top of our page. Let's start adding some CSS. Header section. See footer, aside. So essentially all of the figure fig caption. And then we're going to say display block. And you might be wondering why we're doing that, since I just told you that they're block level. This is a practice for other browsers that may be not able to read HTML5 and they don't know what these elements are. So when it says display block, they're going to conform essentially with displaying as a block. So this is what this does. And now let's go and style the body here. Color is going to be 666, 666. Background color F9, F8, F6. And then we're going to place a background image. And remember, you have to use the URL syntax for this, so it's going to be under images, and it will be this darkwoods.jpg. And again, we do have a background color just as a fallback in case our image does not load. And then background position. Will be center. Font family, Georgia Times Serif. .4M and margin of 0 pixels. Next is the wrapper. The width. So the wrapper is the div that contains everything else, as you might recall. So the width is going to be 940 pixels. Auto, 20, auto. Again, this will center it on the page, right? And give it top and bottom margin of 20 pixels. And then we have a border of 2 pixels, solid, black, and the background color of white. So we're starting to see differences here. Just to take a look. Now we have the background. You can see exactly what we did, right? We have the centered wrapper div. We have the other image taking the background. All right, let's continue. Next is the header. Height, 160 pixels. And we're going to give it a background image. Header.jpg. Okay, so you can see we might need a little work here, but now we have, this is the header image we just added, and obviously the nav still not styled, but that's where we are next. So you'd make such a image for the header, including the text, maybe probably with Photoshop or Illustrator, and then you'd save it, and then you have it, you can put it directly as your header.
Is it bad to have text separately because then it can be, clickable?
No, it's not bad. It's actually another situation of trade-off. So the more images you have, the less searchable and therefore search engine optimizable your site is. But it looks nice.
So you have to pay more attention to metadata if you.
You always should.
You have to anyway.
You always have to, right? But if you're more concerned about the visual, it's I guess you have to maximize the look and the SEO somehow. It's fairly common to have an image like this, though. Okay, so that's the header, and then the H1. Text indent. So this is a technique that is not liked by everyone. There is some dispute about it. Maybe I should have us look at a discussion about it. But essentially, it's going to make sure that the text, so 0, 0 is the top left, and negative 999 is going to make sure that it's all the way to the left upper corner of your page, right? So let's see here, hang on. We have already our H1, right? Let's see, so our H1 is Yoko's Kitchen, so let's save. Take a look. So this text is text, right? Right. And then if we say, it's basically disappeared, but it's still there.
That's mostly for like search engine use.
I think that would be the idea. You still have it, so it's the screen readers can read it, but you actually don't need to have it because it's already put there. Yeah. And again, if you're interested, you can read. There is some dispute as to should you do this or not. So anyway, here it is. H1. Okay, so width 940 pixels, height 130, and margin of 0.
Why do you have it for the heading?
Just a second. So right now we need to keep on working and replace, not replace, but rather style the nav. So nav and footer, we're going to use the same styling in part. Clear both. So who remembers what this means? What does it mean if you say clear bold for an element? You guys remember? It can't touch other elements on either side. So that's the idea. And then color. If you say clear, it means it will not touch. If you have floated other elements, if you clear bold, it can't touch anything on other side.
It only works with the float.
Not only, but most commonly, most often with a float. All right, so color FFF, FFF, background color. Height of 30 pixels. Oops. Now we need to style all the sub-elements inside the nav to actually see this working. So we'll keep on working without preview for now. Now we need to style the UL inside the nav. And we're going to give it a margin of 0 and a padding of 5, 0, 5, and 30. So top, right, bottom, left 30 pixels. Oh, that's why it's red. Thank you. There we go. And now the next line is going to bring the list items in line, and now we should start seeing some changes. So the list item, we're going to say display inline, and then margin right, 40 pixel. Let me take a look here, and I'll bring back the code. So take a look now. After we made them inline, that's what actually brought them to make horizontal. We have more work, but we're definitely seeing improvements. So this is the line that made them actually horizontal. And then we have now the nav list item anchor tag. We're going to make the color white. And then for the hover, we're going to set the color to black. So this is for every time you hover over a link, and also the link that is current is going to, with the current class. Remember we gave one of our links class current? So we're using a dot here to indicate this is a current class. So let me save this, preview again. We don't have to preview quite often, I guess, but it's fun to see the changes. So here we go, now exactly what we did. The current class is now black, and when we hover over either of these, it's turning black from the hover, right? Okay, so continue on. Then we have the section with class of courses. We're going to float it left. So it's going to go left to the other element. And we're going to give it the width of 659 and a border right of 1 pixel solid. EEE. I think I mentioned, and I think Joel also mentioned during his presentation, if you have the same hexadecimal letters, you don't have to really write them 6 of them, you can only write 3 of them and it will still work. All right, so now we should see some changes with the section with the class of courses. Let's save and take a look. So here it is. Let's see, where's, okay, right here. So let's see, so we floated it and sure enough, now our section floated to the left, right? Next, article. We're going to say clear both, overflow auto. So if you say auto for the overflow, if the overflow is clipped, a scroll bar should be added to see the rest of the content. So in other words, we don't have to depend on how much text is there because we're going to set it. If there is more text than the allowed allocated space, it will just give a scroll bar, right? And so article clear, overflow auto, and width 100%.
Articles and stuff.
Okay, thank you. And let's see. Next, the age group. We're going to give it a margin top of 40 pixels. The figure we're going to float left. Give it the width and the height of 290 and height of 220 pixels. And also padding of 20, margin of 20. And this all adds up. This is all part of the CSS box model. And even a border of 1 solid EEE. And so we have used up here all the different parts of the CSS box model for the figure. Okay, we can take a look if you like. And next is the fig caption. font size 90%, and text align left. So next we're going to work on the side, and the side was the recipes and the contacts. I assume you have no questions. This is the case, right? It's just a matter of going through the work, right? If you have any questions, just please ask at any time. And now the side, we're going to set it with a width of 230 pixels, and we're going to float it left, so it actually becomes on the side. We'll give it a padding of 0, 0, 0, and 20 pixels. Just a second. Okay, so I don't know if you saw, but we have a change here a little bit. And then we have the sections. We have inside the side, we have a couple of sections, so we tackle those next. So we're going to say aside, section, anchor, the link inside the section, display block, and now let's style the hover. Oh, that's why it's. Thank you. Border style. Actually, this should be border bottom, so thank you for catching that. Okay, next the hover state. Color 985B6A. Background color EF, EF, EF. Okay. So next we're going to remove the underline from the nav items. And to do so, we're going to, well, first let's set the color to DE6581. And then background color, sorry, then to remove the underline, if you might recall, we're going to use text decoration none. And so by setting it to none, we should now have no underlines under any of the navigation items, right? All right. Just have a few more. Let's set the font weight for the headings to normal, for all the headings. And then the H3, which is the one day workshop, margin of 0, 0, 10, 0, and color DE 6581. All done. Lastly, the footer. %. Let me test this out and then I'll let you finish. So this should be everything. I think this looks pretty nice. All right. So let you finish, test out your site, make sure it works. And we might have time today even to talk about media queries a little bit. Do you like the outcome of this work?
Pretty sure for a moment how this is supposed to look like.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there lines between the where it says
The
happy
tiny
birthday?
gray lines, they come from the border bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have them around their pictures as well.
Yes, you can barely see them, but yes. So just a subtle effect there. The code? Sure, of course.
I don't know why my buddy is black.
Let me take a look. Let me just I wanted to show you something real quick. One second here. Okay, so I want to show you if it said background repeat. This is a big image. So this is a big image, so that's not a problem. But what I wanted to point out to you is that, oh wait, I have a typo. Maybe it's not a big. Just 1 second. Repeat. I didn't think it was this big. Right. Okay. So take a look. This is something you may want to know. By default, the image, if it's not large enough, is going to repeat itself to fill up the space. And this is what we see here. It's not that the background image is so big, it just repeats many times and it makes it look as if it covers up the entire space. And so as you can see, if I set no repeat, then it looks like it's not even there because it just disappeared behind something else. Depending what you want to do, you have an option to repeat or not repeat, but the default is to repeat the image. So now we should be able to see it again, which is in this case what we want, right?
So just no repeat, no space repeat.
The syntax is background repeat, colon no repeat,
As one word or as two words?
no dash repeat. Yes, Christina, to look some.
Under side section A, there's the display block border bottom, is that like gray, but then is there a, I think I must have just said, there, oh, Adam, that's it.
Is everyone finished working with this then? All right. So that's,
I didn't get one of the codes for the UL.
let's see, UL. Zeke probably up here. Take a look. All right, so let's talk about responsive. We have a few minutes left. Just get started. I have a tutorial since we are almost also short on time. Where is it? Here we go. So here is a little tutorial on W3 schools about using media queries. So let me step back and just to make sure that we're all on the same page. What is responsive web design? Do we know this, or should we define our terms? Who knows what responsive, who thinks they know? Could you define it for us, please?
Oh, back to some. The design will change depending on the device that it's being viewed on.
Pretty much. The design will change, will respond to the different screen size, right? And so what that means is there are two parts that come into responsive design. One part is to use media queries so you can make your design elements scale differently based on different device size. And then also you need to make your images scalable. But let's look at the media query, which allows you to essentially set conditions in your code for different device sizes. And so this is what this might look like. For example, on a desktop, your design would look something like that. And then on a phone, you're going to make changes so that now it looks different. It's more column under column rather than spread horizontal, right? It is recommended to start designing mobile first. So you hear this term a lot as well. You first design for mobile, which is more pared down because you can have less information on a mobile device versus a full. And then you design first for your mobile, which contains the essentials, and then you scale up and add on for your desktop and so on. And so, or you can have however many breakpoints you need, you can make those with media queries. So for example, it is fairly common to have a traditional desktop, iPad, or some kind of tablet device, and a phone. And let me See, I think this is the example I wanted to show you. Right. So take a look here. We have a desktop layout. And then how do we test for responsive? Well, maybe this is not it. Let's see here. I think my screen size is maybe too large, so it's not showing properly. Okay, so this is a desktop design. And you can see that when I start making my screen, my browser size smaller, it responded by pulling up the design and making it more one underneath the other, right? And so how do we do this? What does it take? It takes media queries, and then you use a media query to specify the different CSS to create those different views. So the media query is a CSS3 query, and it looks something like that. You can specify in this most simple case, if you will, in your original size, the background color is light green, and then when the media size goes down to maximum width of 500, in other words, when it's less than 500, when it hits the 500, what is it going to do? See, also you can see up here the sizes, right? And then at 500 it changed to light blue. So that's a very simple example, but the principle is there. And then you can make your conditions as complicated as you need to, and then put the different styles for all your different elements on the page so that at 500 they change how they look, right? So one thing you'll do, a lot of them would be you can set the width to 100%, and then this will make it take up the entire space. So there is no space for anything on the side of it, and that makes it look in this, one long column kind of look. And so the syntax for the media queries, you say at media, and you can say only screen, because you're only really concerned in this case with the screen. The media can only work with print and so on. I won't talk about this. And then the max width, in this case, max width is 500. You can also do min width. So if the minimum width is X, then you do something different. The other part when you work with responsive is you have to always use the following line, and you just get in the habit of using it. Here we go. You always have to add in the head of your document the meta with the name of the viewport. The viewport is what you see. It's not the browser, but what you see out of the page. So that's your viewport. And then you set the viewport, and then the content is the width equals the device width and initial scale of 0. So these are just settings that you always have to put in the metadata if you're going to use media queries. You can copy it from here and start using it. Okay, so this was the most simple example where we just changed one color, as you can see. And then how about when the screen gets smaller than 768, then we make each column 100%, right? So that's what is going to give it again to take up the entire available space. Let's look at the code here. So this is the CSS. You have a different layout with each class has different width. And then for mobile phones, everything is 100%. If it's less than 768 pixels. Minimize here. And I have posted the link to this tutorial, so you should probably experiment of your own as well. So here is the regular layout. Again, we have a header, footer, content, navigation, aside. And then if I change it, when it hits 768, and less 768 or lower, then every column is going to take up 100% of the size of the device. Right?
Does that mean that there's double coding for every element?
That's what it means. And in fact, if you want to also account for a tablet, it's going to be triple coding, triple styling. So it's a lot of work. The responsive is a lot of work. And again, it's not really, I think it's a best practice and I agree with it, but some people design desktop first, right? That's not a hard and fast rule. But I think it's a good recommendation and I agree with it. You should try to design mobile first and then go up to bigger devices. All right, so and then you can also work with orientations. So when we work, if any of you are taking the Android class I teach in spring, then we work with orientations as well. Android devices have even a wider variety of different sizes you have to account for. So this is the concepts here are going to echo with Android as well, although Android uses XML instead of HTML for layout. Well, that's what I wanted to show you for today. We just have a couple minutes, but take a look if you like and play with it. Are you raising your hand or stretching? Question. It's not clear.
If you're done, I have a question about the assignments.
Sure, yeah, I think we're done with this. Go ahead.
Okay, so the one that had been due yesterday, but then was pushed to today, which is due next Tuesday, the 6th. Is the 10th one also due on the 6th? And is the presentation also due, because it looks like that on Canvas right now?
I just made the presentation due on the 9th,
Okay.
on the 8th. What am I saying?
Alright, so Thursday.
Thursday, right.
But the two last
Yeah, I think you're going to have a little more work this coming week.
I have 2 questions.
And if you have a question on somebody.
Let me just, all right, so let me take a look. So assignment 9 was the layout, and many of you already did start ahead, so hopefully that's not too much of a problem for you guys. That is now due on the 6th. And then I think the 10th assignment was to add a form, was it? Okay, yeah, so I think you can do this. All right, whoever is next, please.
Oh, yeah.
I have one question about the layout we did. We put the header and the sections inside a wrapper. Is it a good practice to put them inside something? Because I originally had them in a wrapper and then I took the wrapper away. Should I put it back?
It's a pretty good practice because then you can, if you want to perhaps add a border or a margin for the entire space, so you can group everything together with a wrapper. I think it's a good practice.
Because I specifically wanted to not group so that when I make it mobile, that it can jump more easily.
So this is not a mobile.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
I know,
exactly.
but, I just wanted to try.
Right, right. I think it's a good practice to have a wrapper,
Okay.
but it's not a requirement by any means. Right.
And then I have another question that sometimes when you do responsive, you get a kind of menu where there are like 3 little lines. What is it called?
So okay, so it's called people call it a hamburger menu. I like to call it a pancake menu because I don't eat meat, but
Veggie burger.
veggie burger. It's a veggie burger. What we use in Web 130, and I think you guys might use it in Web 110 as well, is fairly commonly instead of making our own, we use a plugin, a jQuery plugin, SlickNav, and it makes the look for you, and it's actually quite easy.
Okay.
So SlickNav is a plugin I would recommend where it does exactly this. It's going to, here's a demo. Right, so that's what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
I just
So
didn't know what it was
hamburger.
called, so
I think it's mostly
couldn't
called
search.
hamburger. Collapsible menu is probably the proper term, but
But it was SlickNav then.
so we will do SlickNav in one of the upcoming classes as well. Christina?
And I guess we have another question on the HTML5 layout.
Sure.
What is the minimum number of the HTML5 elements that we use?
Did I not state that clearly?
Pardon me?
I didn't state that.
I think it's like 2 or
Um,
4 or something.
Maybe
like that.
4 or 5.
But there was a number. There was a number.
I thought there was a number in there. Let's see.
If you look in the assignment, there's a number.
me take a look.
I guess because I've already,
5, at least 5. Use HTML5 layout elements, use at least 5. So you use footer, header, nav, maybe a site and section, or, 5 total. And you can use figure or free caption if that works for you, as long as it's HTML5 specific. All right. Thank you, and I'll see you on Tuesday, or some of you tonight in Python.
And this example is in the book.
This example is in the book, and I have posted the source code as well
Oh,
in
great.
the week 10 module. So see.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Let me turn off the recording here.